right. Hello, everyone. You are listening to the Minding Mind podcast, where we live life with ease, connection, and permission to just be. I'm your host, Evelyn LeVasseur, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I am sitting down with Melissa Armstrong, and let me tell you, we chatted for a few minutes before we started recording, and this woman is a powerhouse. We're going to talk all about trusting your gut, following your intuition, trauma recovery, meditation, and even a mind-body connection. Before we get started, let me tell you about her. Melissa is a trauma-informed functional medicine coach, a wife, and a mother to two young boys. She started her career as an RN in 2010 after experiencing a significant amount of trauma in her childhood and young adult life, ultimately leading to physical, mental, and emotional symptoms that plagued her for years. During her early career, she struggled to get the answers and support she needed to make the sustainable, lasting changes she desired in her health, which actually led her to pursue the world of natural medicine, functional health, and somatic healing. Since then, she's made it her life's mission to learn about those alternative healing modalities and root cause analysis so she can help other women overcome personal and intergenerational trauma and the physical symptoms that often accompany the unhealed wounds so they can heal their mind, body, and spirit and live their dream life. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So I'm so excited for this conversation because just chatting with you earlier, it just helped me see. So I say it all the time, but then there's always evidence when you're speaking to somebody that our pain is different, our stories are different, but we all relate, we all feel it, we all connect, we all recognize something in something that you're saying. And I just love that you're on this path of sharing the things that you've gone through, but also sharing that your story doesn't have to be written for you. You get a say.
Yeah. It's really powerful. I've really come to the realization that sharing my story, we all have a story. So sharing your story can be so powerful in your own healing and the healing of other people around you.
Yeah. So, let's just get into it. I said, what is it do you feel in your story, or you can share your story? How do you feel that story itself has helped you to become the Melissa that you are today?
Gosh, it has been every single piece of my story has helped me become who I am today. And I realize now that every single, trauma and experience that I've gone through has been for this, part of my life. My childhood was riddled with trauma and abuse. My parents were both addicted to drugs. My dad was very physically abusive. They finally divorced when I was about 6, and my dad left. I never had a relationship with him afterwards. He died a few years back. But after they divorced, my mom struggled to be able to take care of us as a result of her own emotional wounds from what she had been through with my dad and my brother's dad and her own childhood trauma. She was very verbally abusive toward us and emotionally unavailable. And then when I was, in my younger, or I guess teenage years, like lots of different things happened. I was molested. I was present at a school shooting. And then when I was 18, my brother was killed in a tragic accident right in front of me. So I had already struggled with my mental health before his accident, but really like in my teenage years was really when my mental health started going downhill significantly. When I was molested and then the shooting happened, it was just, I had depression, anxiety, panic, PTSD. I was suicidal. I was in and out of psychiatric facilities. My brother died, and that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I really, really, really was unwell mentally, emotionally, spiritually after that. And I spent the next I decided to go into nursing as a result of my brother's accident because the nurses that took care of him were angels on earth. And I wanted to help people in that way. But I was simultaneously struggling with my own mental health, and that resulted in a lot of physical symptoms. And I was, for the next 5 or so years, I was not getting the answers and the care and the guidance that I needed from the traditional medical system. I was met a lot with if I went to the doctor for anxiety, here, take these anti-anxiety medicines. You're depressed, take this antidepressant. I started getting rashes on my arms and GI symptoms. They just give me steroids. They didn't ask what I was eating. They didn't ask about my relaxation techniques. They didn't ask about my trauma. And that all kind of led me to explore other healing modalities for myself. My boyfriend at the time, my now husband, suggested I try meditation, and I did. And that was kind of the beginning of my healing journey, and realizing that there was kind of this whole other world to healing, and learning about somatic experiencing and Eastern healing philosophies and energy and neuroplasticity and trauma, and what is that and why does it affect you so much, and all of those things. So I've been a nurse for 14 years, and in the last 5 or so years I've worked more in like the holistic model, and a year ago opened my own practice to help other women who've experienced, like you said in my bio, just experienced some sort of trauma, intergenerational, personal traumas that result a lot of times, if you don't heal that, it starts to have physical manifestation. So I use a functional root cause approach to look at what is actually happening within the body physiologically, so we can address those imbalances, so we can heal the mind, body, and spirit.
Amazing. Amazing. You said so much that like I have a million questions running through my mind, but I really want to just take a second and hold space for that younger version of you that needed someone to protect her, that needed somebody to just hold her and help heal her and teach her what safety felt like in your own body, in your own environment, you know? Yeah, that feels like such a big deal to me to recognize all the things that you've gone through, and then to look at you today and say, like, first of all, you tell your story almost with a sense of ease, because I think that you have acknowledged all of it and you have recognized who you are today. What do you think it is that you were able to see everything that you were going through, feel the distress in your body physically, your entire nervous system, like just all the time? What do you think it is that helped you say, there has to be a different way, instead of, I guess this is just my reality?
That is such a good question. It was a journey that I don't think that there was like one moment that I was like, aha. It was just kind of learning more and more and more along the way. For me, the journey started with meditation.
Mhm.
And when I started meditating, what happened is I was in my early 20s. My now husband, then boyfriend, recommended meditation for me because I was having such bad panic attacks that I couldn't sleep for days on end.
Wow.
And I would just cry like all the time, like going to Costco. If a car door slammed next to me, I would hit the
Mhm.
ground and start crying, because I was just in that chronic sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight all the time. And he's told me, like, you need something to calm yourself down. You just need to calm down. And maybe you should try meditation. And so I did. And I don't know what about it, like why he suggested it, how he knew about it. I had obviously heard of meditation before, but I had never tried it. And I realized really quickly when I started meditating that I could feel a sense of peace and calm, which I had never in my life felt before.
Mhm.
And so that was really the beginning of me kind of consuming this, like, why does meditation work? What is somatic experiencing? What is energy? And why does it get trapped in your body? What is trauma? And how has all of this trauma, predisposed me to this sympathetic nervous system drive, like just being in that SNS drive all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was kind of, and it just eventually led to, one thing after the other. And
Yeah.
I just learned more and more and more.
It's sounding to me like you leaned more into like curiosity about your physical state over judgment or criticism, you know?
Yeah.
And that's powerful. I feel like even today, when things are going wrong in my life or I'm feeling a certain way, I always lean toward that curiosity first, instead of the the default that I used to have of, this is just the way it is for you. Or, comments I would say to myself, you're not disciplined, you're not motivated. This is just the way it is. Or you're so lazy, you're so X, Y, and Z, when really there was an underlying issue that was causing whatever it is that I was choosing in the moment. This is going to sound so silly, but I'm interested to know, what kind of meditation is it that you tried? Because for years I tried to do this meditation that people talk, and it was like I would sit down and it was like playing whack-a-mole with my thoughts. And for me, what helps me most is guided meditations. So what do you do?
Well, now I don't do as much guided meditation because I've been meditating for 15 years every day. So it's much easier for me. I can just sit down like on the floor right here and meditate for an hour, and I really quiet my mind pretty quickly. But when I started, it was definitely guided meditation. And I often tell people, I hear that all the time. And that's how you know that you need meditation. And that's how you know, like, it's just like anything, it's a practice.
Yeah.
Like playing baseball, like yoga, like running, like handwrite, if you're trying to do calligraphy or something, it all takes practice. Meditation is no different. It's a practice. You get to a point where you can calm your thoughts and quiet your mind after you practice it a lot, but it takes time.
Okay. All right. Then I'll just have to remind myself to be gentle and keep going on the same path.
Yeah. And I still to this day have days where I sit down to meditate, and it's like same thing. Like I have the running to-do list. I have something on my website, the 5 tips to start a meditation practice, a free download that you can get that talks about that exact thing. There's some tips about like how to get yourself focused, and you just gently remind yourself and gently bring yourself back. Keep reminding yourself.
I love that. I love that. And I'm absolutely going to try it. And I'll definitely be linking your site to the show notes, just because I think that this is something that we could all benefit from. What is your relationship like with your mom now?
Complicated. Yeah, we have gone through periods of estrangement, and we are trying really hard to heal our relationship. I realized through my own healing journey that she had a lot of trauma, in my teenage years and my early 20s. I was very, very angry with her. I mean, even later, and even into my 30s, I was very angry with her. But I realized that she had a lot of trauma from, her marriages to my dad and my brother's dad. And then even her mom was abusive toward her. And then it goes back at least 5 generations of abuse and addiction. And so she had a lot of unhealed trauma as well, which was why she showed up the way she did. I have been able to forgive her, and I see her in a different way now than I ever have before. She did the best she could. I think back to like, I'll be 40 next year. So when I was like 6 when they got divorced, so we're talking like 1989, 1990, when she left my dad, there wasn't this common knowledge and common discussion about trauma even being like a consideration in your health. It didn't exist back then. And she really had nobody in her corner. She was a single mom with 4 kids. She didn't really have a good relationship with her family, still doesn't really, because of all the trauma and abuse there. So she really did the best she could. We have both done a lot of healing personally and on our relationship, and I'm proud of where we've come, like how far we've come. I actually just wrote her a really nice Mother's Day card, probably for the first time in many, many years, and just hand wrote her a note that told her like how much I love and respect her because she did the best she could.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there comes that point when you're on your healing journey and you start to recognize that even though there were things that hurt you, right? It's not like there was intention behind the pain, right? It's not like she woke up and said, like, I can't wait to make Melissa feel horribly. I can't wait to raise a child who's angry and in pain. It's so difficult to recognize that they did their best and it was painful. Both things are true. But I think there's also some compassion that comes with that when you start to recognize it, because even as a parent yourself, you can see, like I tell my husband, and I know I tell my daughters too, I do my best all the time. And I know there are still going to be things when they get older that they're going to have to unlearn, because I cannot teach them what I don't know, right? I can do my best. I can equip them with like tools to be resilient, to be reflective, to be introspective, and really give them the power of their own journey. So I think there is like a beauty in at some point recognizing there is this human being that was your parent, but also an individual that was struggling, right? So to be able to see both sides of her has to bring some healing to you as well.
Oh, 100%. And I feel like even just in the last, like we were talking before we started recording, like even just in the last, year to 2 years, I feel like I've healed so much more. Like I kind of thought like I had done already so much of the healing work. And obviously I believe that journey never stops.
Yep.
Healing is an ongoing journey. You'll never get to a place where you're fully healed.
Mhm.
So, but even just in the last 1 to 2 years, I've done so much more healing than I ever thought possible. And I've gotten to a place with my mom now where, I had forgiven her. I really do believe that I had forgiven her many years ago, but I still did have some anger and I didn't feel like I could love her. And now, I mean, I loved her to just because she's my mom,
Right.
but I didn't like, maybe I didn't, oh gosh, I don't know if I should say that, but yeah, I didn't like her.
Yeah.
I didn't, I didn't feel empathy toward her, like for everything she had been through, as much as I do now. And now I'm like, gosh, I feel lucky that she's my mom
Yeah.
and she did the best she could. And I really like her
Yeah.
now, which
I
is
think
really cool.
there's like to me zero shame or judgment around you having that feeling of not, liking her in the sense, because the fact is that you had needs that weren't met, right? You needed somebody to be there and protect you and guide you. But it is, I guess, now into adulthood and through this journey that you recognize like, I am a safe space. I am valuable. I am worthy, right? It's you having the realization of who you are that can help you see who she is. And then I guess ultimately forgive that piece of what she couldn't do for you. Because
Yeah.
the truth is, she couldn't give you something that she couldn't give herself.
Right. Yeah. And she didn't even know for many years, even that she couldn't give that to
Yeah.
herself or that she wasn't loving herself or that she had all this trauma that wasn't healed. Like she didn't even, it took her decades to realize that.
It's just such a difficult thing that you went through. And then at the same time, I feel so glad that she's able to be on this side of it at this point. And even though, I'm sure it's a daily struggle to continue to choose herself, to continue to choose a different life. But I guess my prayer is that ultimately she can see herself for who she is, right? With every pure intention that she holds to
Yeah.
this day. What do you think about like your story being a very intense one? How do you think that impacted the way that you felt about becoming a mom yourself?
Oh, it terrified me. It terrified me but it also really motivated me to heal myself more. Like I love personal growth. I love challenging myself and looking in the dark, hard areas. And when I still have days where I yell at my kids when they don't deserve it and, show up as less than what I want. So I constantly am asking myself how and why and asking the hard questions so I can try to do better the next day. But I always, yeah, I definitely had a lot of fear around becoming a mom because I didn't want to do the same thing that my mom did, and my kids so deeply.
Yeah. Yeah. That is very real because I can even notice when I talk to my youngest daughter has a very similar personality to mine. And I can see like there are sometimes she does things that like trigger me and I react. And then I'm grateful now that I have the power to stop myself mid-reaction because I can see that sometimes the way that I react or the things that I say, I can see shame in her face. And it makes me recognize a sense of shame that I carried with me for the longest time. So it's in those moments, in that recognition, that I'm able to course correct, apologize, own my reaction, and then talk to her completely differently. But yeah, that fear is so real because you just don't ever want them to feel the way that you felt.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Wow. So let's talk a little bit about how you help women now. Like, if someone were to come work with you, what is it that they're looking for? Can they even verbalize? Like, I'm dealing with this trauma. Like, what is it that they're saying to you? And where do you even start?
Yeah. So a lot of people who come to me are complaining of symptoms, physical symptoms. And some people will come and say, like, oh, I don't really have any trauma. Like I had a good childhood, or, I and that's fair. If you had a good childhood, that's great. But I think that a lot of people have traumas that they don't even realize are traumas. And so the first thing I like to explain is what trauma even is. And there's this, in the trauma realm, we talk about big T traumas and little T traumas. So big T traumas are what you would think, like death of a loved one, being in an active war zone, divorce, those types of things, versus little T traumas like being fired from a job, or having what you thought was your lifelong partner break up with you, or car accident or a fall or something, and like a woman who was in a car accident and also went through a divorce a year apart, like that's a significant trauma. And we know from years of research that trauma creates like micro inflammation throughout your body and really disrupts the body at the cellular level if not healed properly and not experienced properly. Most of us tend to stuff down those emotions. And emotion is energy in motion. So if you have that energy inside of your body in motion, it's just creating all of this havoc inside of your body. And you need to have a way to process that and get it out of your body, process and let that energy flow out of your body so that you can decrease the inflammation and heal your body. So I take a functional root cause approach with all of the symptoms. So people come to me with things like joint pain, IBS symptoms, headaches, PCOS symptoms. I specialize in hormones and gut health, but I get a lot of all kinds of various different symptoms. And while I'm not a counselor, we do spend a lot of time talking about mindset and past experiences and how they are affecting our decisions today. And I'm not a counselor, so I don't we're not going to talk about the past a whole lot. We're not going to stay there. We're going to use that information and the knowledge that we gained from those experiences to look into the future and figure out how we can change the way we're showing up, how we can take care of ourselves better and heal our bodies. So I use a lot of mindset work, a lot of education around like detoxification, lifestyle, nutrition, those types of things. I use specialty functional medicine testing to actually identify the imbalances in the body so that we can fix them naturally without pills and procedures, and look at it from like a holistic perspective. So the whole person and how we can balance the body so you can heal.
Yeah, I love everything you're saying because I know that anytime that I have needed to go to the doctor, anytime I feel a symptom coming through, there's always a very short amount of questions asked. Oh, these are your symptoms. Here, you can take this. There's never that question of, what's going on in your life? Is something new happening? Is something old sticking with you? How are you sleeping? How are you eating? Like, there's no real like questioning of the whole human being. It's more like, here's a symptom, let me treat the symptom. And then, maybe this medication brings on other symptoms. We just never know. It's just a big old circle and cycle of treating a symptom and then treating another symptom. So I love that you are able to take an approach that looks at this whole woman and her past, her present, her future, her physical body, her emotional worlds, like, and even like her just emotions and desires. Like, I love that you are shining a light on encompassing all of this and who we are, because we want so much for ourselves, right? And then, but we have no idea where to start, how to get there, and then how to sustain it. Because the
Yeah.
answers aren't readily available if you just go to your general practitioner.
Yeah, 100%. The system is broken,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and it's really no fault of and I want to be clear, like I thank God for modern medicine, ICUs, ORs, ERs, like thank God for that, right? Like if I'm in a car accident, take me to the hospital. Do not take me to my house. Like
Yeah.
I think that for acute emergent things, I am so grateful for that system. But for as far as like true health and lifelong healing, that model sucks, frankly. And it's because the system is broken, because the doctors and nurses that work in that system are phenomenal people. You know, I mean, there's bad people everywhere, but like most of them, 99.9% of them are phenomenal people and want to truly help people. But they are beholden to the organizations that they work for, and the organizations that they work for are beholden to their shareholders and the insurance industry and the pharmaceutical industry. And that whole system is how that's how it operates.
Yeah.
And it's a broken system for actually healing people, and they don't have the time. The reason why your doctor doesn't ask you what's going on in your life, is there something in the past that you're carrying, is because they literally don't have the time, because they've got someone pounding at their door saying like, you got another patient in the next room, hurry up with this one, you got 15 minutes. Like you can't
Yeah.
adequately assess somebody in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And you know.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. You even think about just the fact that going to the doctor to treat whatever it is that you're treating, you have to recognize that there's big money to be made behind your unhealthy life, right? Like there's
Yep.
no money to be made with a country full of healthy people. So
Yeah.
I just love the idea of you taking people inward first and recognizing that, health is not just a one symptom issue. There's something causing it, which I think is amazing. So, Melissa, I could talk to you all day long because I have a million questions running through my mind, but I want to be mindful of your time. If people ever wanted to reach out to you, maybe follow you on social, where could they find you?
So my website is www.holistichealthbymelissa.com. And then you can find me on social media everywhere, Holistic Health by Melissa. I'm most on Instagram, but that's my name, Holistic Health by Melissa.
Awesome. I'm going to make sure that I share that in the show notes. And I am not allowed to let you leave without asking the question of the hour. And the question of the hour is, in the Minding Mind community, we're all about being instinctual, intuitive, living life according to the things that meet our desires, our true essence. If it is a religious belief or societal belief or a belief from your parents, it's not yours to bear. What's yours is yours. So the question is, how does minding yours, being instinctive and intuitive for yourself, how does that impact the legacy that you will leave?
I love that question so much. Gosh, how does it impact? I think for me, being able to release the burden of all of the trauma that I've been through and really taking on the true essence of my own identity, which I now believe and feel so strong and powerful and just so wonderful to say, is like, I'm a cycle breaker. I broke and that's my legacy, is that there's 5 generations of trauma. I'm going to get emotional. There's 5 generations of trauma in my family that I know of, and my kids are living a completely different life than I lived, than my parents lived, and their parents before. Like, I broke the cycle. That's
Yeah.
my legacy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I swear, I just feel like let yourself feel that, because I think it's so incredibly important to sit back and recognize sometimes, like, there were things that I went through, but that shit stops with me, right? That shit stops with me. And like, look at my life, look at my children, look at who I am, look at how I feel, look at the energy that I carry into a room and just say, like, I did that, right? I did that. And I get to keep doing that. So, I mean, I know that you're emotional, but it's also just like gratitude and compassion for who you were and who you're still becoming. So, I celebrate that with you.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here with us today. And I want to thank everyone else for joining myself and Melissa and tuning into another episode of Minding Mind. And if this episode resonated with you, I want you to please comment, rate, and review this podcast. You know that your feedback helps me grow. And until next time, I want you to go live your life on your terms and mind your business. We will catch you in the next episode.